Good morning, everybody. Here you are back with another moment of truth from your host, Anthony Mitchell. And as always, welcome to the End Zone Club. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, I would like to encourage you that before the end of this episode, stop, like, rate, share, and subscribe this podcast so that we can get out. And again, if you are new to this platform, here we have conversations that are wrapped around things that we have learned in our slightly older years that we wish we knew when we were younger. And the purpose of that is to help young people unlock their potential and also fulfill their purpose. Only way you can do that is having information that is key to reasoning. So with that said, all the preliminaries out the way, let's go ahead and jump into today's episode.
This is an extreme transparent moment for me. I am working out after I had my last baby. Just in a few short weeks, baby will turn 1. It took 9 months to create her and nurture her in my body, and it's taken almost 1 year to get back in my ideal shape. So come along with me on this journey as I return to healthy, wealthy, and wise.
So now that we're back, there comes a point in time in each of our lives where you have this rude awakening. That rude awakening is, what are you remembered for? Not what are you known for. Known implies the present. That's what people, when they see you, people who are currently in your life, it's easier for them to remember you for what you're known for. So like, let's say, for example, if you're the guy or the girl or the individual that brings coffee to everybody at work, that's what you're known for. If you're the person that always sits in the back of meetings and you're the person that never has anything to say, that's what you're known for. But sometimes what you're remembered for is the lasting effects your life has had on other people. How have you impacted people? Has your life done anything significant that 10 years later you run into a former classmate or a former co-worker or a former neighbor? On first glance, do they remember you? Typically, the people that make the bigger impacts are the ones that are going to be remembered the most. Case in point, several times here in the past 10 years, I've been in remote places. And when I mean remote, it's a place that not only am I not from, but it's a place that I don't even live. I'm just remotely out somewhere. Maybe I'm working, maybe I'm headed somewhere to work. And I randomly run into an individual from my earlier life. Somebody I went to high school, middle school, something with. And just to preface this, it's been over 20 years since I graduated from high school. So you tack that on with maybe somebody, from the 9th grade or 6th grade. There's a few years involved in this math, that's all I can say. But you run into these individuals and I recognize them, but they don't recognize me or they don't remember me. That's a very daunting feeling. It's like, in my mind, sometimes for us, when we have these memories about places that we grew up or people we hung around, sometimes time stands still, right? I'm pretty good. I'm terrible with names, right? I can see you every day for a year and sometimes still struggle with your name. So my kids all have P names, and even right now, I have been in their lives every day of their life. All of these P names running around, I'm mixing names up all the time. My dog, her name is Coco. She's an American Bulldog, but I call her Piper all the time. Piper is our 15-month-old baby, right? So I'm terrible with names, but I'm pretty good with faces. I'll see your face and I'll recognize you right off. I mean, time can pass. I'll see, oh, I know them. Give me a few moments and I'll tell you where I know you from. So when I run into individuals that don't remember me, sometimes you have that moment where it's like, have I not done anything building enough? Have I not built a name for myself? That's probably the better term to use. Have I not built a bigger name for myself where 25, 30 years later, people would still remember me. You would be surprised how often these kind of moments will occur. It's a reality, and it's a gut check because it reinforces this idea that in life, I really want to hunker down on this idea that it's okay to do legendary stuff. What I mean legendary, it is okay to build a body of work that people will remember forever. You would be surprised that long after your resume has become outdated, long after your career path has maybe been swallowed up by something more popular. I think back in the 80s and 90s, and when we were getting this education about what the wave of the future was going to look like, there was going to be the Jetsons. We were going to be like the Jetsons in that we were going to have flying cars, and robots were going to take over the world, and babies would no longer be born, naturally. Everything would be in symbiotes and tubes, and all of this futuristic stuff we developed in our minds that the future would be like. But now that we're actually living in the wave of that future, it's more like Dragnet. It's more like James Bond. All of the little cool tricks and technologies and, emerging sophisticated ways of doing things from cell phones that now instead of taking voice, right? We had landline phones when I was growing up. Now you're able to FaceTime people. Now you're able to project images. Now you're able to take your cell phone and as you're watching something on YouTube or Netflix, you can now cast it, which is like it's an invisible holographic image being bing like Scotty, bing like Star Trek into your TV, and whatever you're watching on your phone, you can now watch it on the TV. You can actually play presentations from your phone into projectors. I mean, we're in that wave, so a lot of the career paths that we were being pushed for, I don't want to say have become obsolete, but we, in my generation, all of the movies had these weird science experiments and all of these sorts of things, so everything was geared in that direction. Think about weird science. Think about all of the movies, the shows where you had these science fairs and projects. I don't even think we do that stuff anymore, right? Trades and health and hands and skilled occupations, which we were endeavored in, now that's all gone into robotic and automation, and now you're looking at graphic designing being a thing, and AI intelligence and programming and flying drones. These are all real career paths. So, as things are ever evolving and changing, my encouragement for especially you young people, stay on the cusp of emerging technology. Don't become like the dinosaurs. Sometimes we as individuals get comfortable in a certain niche or a certain way of doing things or certain ways of things functioning. And as times change, because I'm going to promise you, the most consistent part of life is change. You may not like change. You may think things will forever be the same. You may think the gang will always be together. But I promise you, it will not. Right? So knowing that will not, let's have a word from our sponsors and then let's get back into this conversation.
Hi, I'm Portland, and you're listening to the End Zone Club.
Phew, I enjoyed that, Portland. Thank you. But anyway, so as we're learning to readapt in the society and we're trying to figure out what's the best way to make an emerging legacy, the biggest thing, the biggest impact, I encourage you guys to do, don't be Kanye West. Guys, I really wish I had time. Since we're talking about people who will always be remembered, Kanye is one that will always be remembered. But is it for the right reasons? This man has went from his portrayal of former President Walker Bush Jr., not liking black people, to now on the opposite end of the spectrum where from the hood to the White House, he has catered to every group of people. You're looking at even comedians like Chris Rock, who was a very funny urban comedian in his time, bigger, blacker, all the things he'd done. He was the heir apparent to Eddie Murphy, to now you hear his comedy, and he went from uplifting black people to some people have even felt like even tearing down. I mean, you see so many segments of people that are changing, from politicians. What was once considered democratic in the time of when former President Barack Obama ran. He ran with family values, and basically he wasn't very big on abortion. A lot of his ways of thinking, if you were to compare and contrast with where the political parties are now, he would basically be considered a Republican. So what I'm saying, guys, are things are always changing. People are changing, but this body of work they're constantly building is what they will be remembered as. With that said, even I'm looking at one of my favorite comedians from my time growing up was Eddie Murphy. Eddie was as big as they came. Another big iconic individual, Mike Tyson, Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan, Madonna, Whitney Houston. These people were larger than life. Unfortunately, at some given point, some of these entertainers, Mike Tyson, he's no longer really boxing. Michael Jordan, his legacy still lives on, but could he run, jump, dribble like he used to? Can he impose fear in the hearts of opponents like he used to? I'm pretty sure not. You know, it hurts my heart that as big as Michael Jackson, who moonwalked in 1983 on national television, we thought it was magic that even Criss Angel and David Blaine and David Copperfield couldn't replicate. But you know what? Now this generation has a guy in Chris Brown that they are arguing and going to the extremes of saying is more talented than Michael Jackson. Take a moment to think about that. Mr. Beat It himself, Mr. Thriller himself, couldn't hold a candle to Mr. Run It, Run It. If a man, that Chris Brown, the Chris Brown that was just charging $1,000 to fans to take pictures. Guys, at the end of the day, our legacy is what's going to stand. It's what people's going to remember us by. So if you have that moment where you're running into people from your past, like I have had, and people are like, I don't remember you, that's even reason the more for us to continue to buckle down and do what we're doing with our legacy, to put it in a way that at the end of the day, when I stop podcasting, at the end of the day, when I stop youth pastoring, the end of the day, when my kids have grown up and gone out the house and it's just me and my wife and a new state of life, what will my kids remember me for when they're now raising their kids? Because me and my siblings, we oftentimes talk about stories from our youth and how we remembered our parents. And my parents, thankfully, are still living, but we sometimes look at each other and we feel like, well, you had it easier than I had it. And I look at this one and say, well, you didn't get in trouble as much as I did, even though you were the badder child. These are legacies. I mean, it's comedic. It's funny. You know, I'm the middle child, so I've got the middle child syndrome. And if you don't know what middle child syndrome is, it means that when a parent, come on, somebody say, hey, man, when a parent has that first child, they're excited. Oh my gosh, our first child. They go out, they do all of these splendid things for the welcoming of the birth of this child. And then all of a sudden, somebody makes a mistake and, oh, there's another child on the way. This one, you know, it's like when you got your first car, you're excited. Your second car, you're excited, but it just doesn't replicate that first feeling of the first. But then, you know, it's still a child. We love it. We're going to maybe give you a room, maybe give you a bed, maybe feed you sometimes. Just not as much as the first. Well, then a few years pass by. The babies that they had are no longer as adorable. Now they're growing up. Now they're talking. Now they know how to say no, stop. Now they're fighting for each other. They're fighting for things. They're fighting for space and attention. You know, that goes on. Kids are now in school. And then somebody gets baby fever. And it starts all over again because it's been a few years and you get another baby. Oh, that baby, the youngest baby, is the baby. And it's spoiled. It has its way. So here I am stuck in the middle. And I give my siblings trouble about that. So with this said, guys, I said all that to say this. Develop a mantra even from a young age that whatever I'm going to do it with the spirit of excellence. That's not to say you're not ever going to mess up. Give yourself grace, right? That's not to say you're not ever going to make mistakes. Again, give yourself grace. But Don't always be the person that sits in the back of the room and always has to be the most quiet. Find something, I always say this all the time, find some things that you are excited about, some things you are passionate about. Do it and do it well. In doing that, like my daughters right now, I encourage you to find them on social media. They sell bracelets. Sell it relatively inexpensive. Something they got jewelry making kits. They get in there. They take bead colors, and I watch them, and I'm always intrigued, seeing their mind of creativity just flowing. And I'm seeing them talking to customers. Hey, what colors do you like? Do you like this? Do you like that? And from that, they're formulating a base for the jewelry. So then I start seeing them picking through their box of goodies. They get the colors together. They start mixing and matching, measuring wrists and these things, and they start putting it together. And then at the end of the day, after they've gotten it all together, they try it all, make sure everything is working, make sure it's not falling apart. They've got a quality product. We call it quality, QA, quality assurance. They're doing the checks. And then they start talking to the customers. Hey, can I have your address? We're getting ready to send this out. And then, of course, they want payment. I am intrigued by that because at the age of 10 and 11, my girls are already developing a legacy of being ambitious, of being girls who are selling. Now their friends are reaching out. Their friends' parents are reaching out. On social media, people have reached out and have made purchases and are encouraging them to keep going. And then even now, here a few years later, sometimes people will randomly see me, stop me, and ask me, hey, do your daughters have any bracelets for sale? That's a legacy they're building. That's a step up on me that I started developing later, around 17, 18. So anything or anybody that maybe didn't know me before then, I was the quietest person in the room. But now I am understanding that through the process of leadership, you don't always have to be the loudest in the room vocally, but sometimes your body of work speaks. Who are you around? Who are you engaging with? Who is your body of work bringing you in connection with? In the scriptures, and I'll close with this, something that was basically poured into me from a young age is that not to despise the days of a humble beginning. That just basically means that wherever you start from, don't look down on it. Sometimes when we're at just the stages of starting anything, it may sometimes make you feel inconsequential or make you feel little or make you feel a certain way. Some people do stupid things for attention, but some other people build the right way. And as you begin to build that, the Bible says that a man's gift is interchangeable. A person's gift will cause them to stand before great people. If you work at your legacy, if you work at building things, if you work at being known for the right things and not the wrong things, I promise you, one day it will position you around people that you probably never saw coming. Yeah. And when you look at myself, at some given point, I lived in a small town. I mean, small town of probably less than 7,000, 8,000 people for sure. I don't even think we had a mayor in Kokomo, Mississippi. Kokomo. Let's give a shout out to Kokomo. Didn't have a mayor in Kokomo, I don't believe. But from a small town like that, just to be where I am, where I now have worked with presidents, vice presidents, been in their presence. I've now been blessed to be on contingencies with hurricane relief, have been around multiple athletes. I mean, multiple athletes in their primes, guys like Deion Sanders and Brett Favre and Barry Sanders, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, to be around people like Kelsey Grammer, to be in this presence based upon something I've done has put me there where I'm sitting next to Eli Manning and University of Mississippi, and we're chopping it up, and he's asking me, hey, what do you do for a living? How did you get here? And I'm able to basically give him the rundown that I give you guys every episode: youth, pastor, father, husband, that kind of stuff. And then we're able to shake hands, take pictures, those sorts of things. That's because this $9.99 free game I'm giving you guys that should be sold in the books for millions of dollars, it's free, but it works. So with that said, guys, get that legacy where you want it to be and know what you ultimately want to be remembered as. That's one of the greatest aims you can fine-tune your mind with from a very young age. What do I need or do I want to be remembered by? With that said, This is Anthony Mitchell. You heard another episode of the End Zone Club. All right, over now.